Good morning, everybody. Oh, I have a reverb already. Oh, let's see. There's always something new, isn't there? How's that? Can you guys hear me okay? Now, I've turned off everything on my laptop. I just have what's going on the camera, the crochet cam, which didn't set up the way I wanted it to. So you're going to see a little bit of a mess up over here in the corner. But at least my hands will be in the correct position, I think. And good morning, good morning, good morning. It's so good to have everybody here. Let me take this down for a second and just chat with my friend. I can't do that because then you won't hear me. I hope everybody's having a good week. I'd love to hear how everybody's doing with block number 1. Right here, I've got block number 1. This is the one that we did last week. Did everybody get it done? For those of you who are a little bit new to crochet, I put up some tutorials. Hello, Hat Creek. Hello, Ormsby Farms. Hello, Freehand Nisi and the Major. It's good having everybody coming in. Did you get to finish your square? Now, I know that Nisi over at Freehand, she finished her first block. I'm not sure if she got her row of the trim edging, if she got that done yet, but I know that she worked on her block. I'd like to have a little bit of feedback from everybody, how you like the tutorials that I put up. I put up tutorials for block 1 and block 2 for left-handed and for right-handed. So hopefully those will be good. Oh, good. It was super simple. Had it done in about 30 minutes. Wonderful, because we started with the most simple stitch, and we're going to get a little bit more detailed as we go. The first few you will probably find, I don't want to say, you'll find them that they're familiar. They're going to be familiar stitches. Hello, Gail. You love the tutorials, Nisi. Thank you so much. Thank you, Casey, for going back and watching tutorials. I think it'll help you when we do our whole teaching Casey thing, so I could teach you how to crochet. So my eyebrow itches. Does that mean something? Am I going to get money? So I'm going to set aside our square number 1, and I'm still trying to figure out where my camera placement is. I did a whole new rig setup here, and it's still not working the way I want it to, but it's going to work for today, I think. Unfortunately, you just have to see the leg of my stand here, but that's okay. I think we'll all survive. So I'm going to find out exactly where is the best spot. Now, I cannot zoom in on this. When we get to anything tricky, I'll bring it up to the camera. But for now, we're going to keep it about right here. I found these adorable little stickers from when I used to make soap. And I'm going to place a sticker that says, where's my camera? I have to remember my camera is up here on this corner. It says, ooh, focus, uniquely handmade. You'll get it. You'll understand. And I'm going to put my uniquely handmade right about here on my little piece of vinyl, so I can make sure that I keep my hands positioned where you're going to want to see them. So I'm going to take block number 1. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to tuck it over here and put it away for safekeeping. Safekeeping. I want to show you guys because, like I said, I know that some of the first few stitches are going to be stitches that are familiar to some of you, and after about the 3rd, maybe even the 4th block, you could be like, this is boring. Well, remember, in samplers, we're starting with the easiest stitch and we're moving upwards. So we started with the single crochet. Today, we're going to be working on the half double crochet. Then we'll do the double crochet and the treble crochet. I find making stitch markers way easier than crochet. Crochet is kicking my butt. You know, it takes practice sometimes, Gail. Don't discredit your ability to do crochet. It just takes a little bit of practice. Another new yarny friend with Casey. Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to show you that I worked ahead on one of our blocks coming up just to show you that we do have fun stuff coming up. Now, the whole block will not look like what I'm presenting to you here, but I want to show you the portion that I put a few rows in. Good morning, Pure Pondering. I want to show you one of the ones that we will have coming up. I'm going to set it right here. I want you to, you can't tell from this far away. I'll hold it up in just a second here. But you know, for instance, here are some single crochets, half double crochets. These are ones that we're going to be working on over the next, you know, couple of weeks. But just so that you don't get bored and think, oh, these are kind of run of the mill. Let me show you this one coming up to the camera here. We're going to be doing some puff stitches. Aren't those fun? Can I move the right way? There we go. Look at the texture on these beautiful raised puff stitches. They're alternating puff stitches. So as you can see here in the row, there's my finger right here, and then they alternate as you do the rows. So this will be one of the ones coming up. This will be a little bit more fun, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more interesting than doing our beginning sampler stitches. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, so maybe you'd be a little excited about this, because this is something that we're going to be working on soon. Puff stitches are so cute. They are. This is really going to be a fun little block to do. We're not doing it today, and I will make sure that I put out tutorials for left and right-handed for doing those. It's not a picot stitch, it's a puff stitch, but they do look like little picots, don't they? Good morning, Gwen. Welcome in. And you know what? Let's go ahead and let's get started. Again, if you're watching this on a replay, there are tutorials available for this stitch for left-handed and right-handed. Again, I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing a weird setup. You could probably see a little bit of it in the corner right here. Oh, I have one of these camera holders that's the spring-loaded camera holder. And by the time I get this camera set up the way I want it and get it up into that spring-load holder, I hurt my hand so bad. I really do need to get this looked at. That I came up with this really neat thing. Let me see if I can show you real quick before we get started. So what I did is I took a grate from the dog crate that we're not using, and I attached it to my ring light, and it's suspending my camera over my work surface. Oh, yes, your sensory heart happy when you have stitches that have texture in them. And we're going to have a lot of texture coming up. We just kind of have to lay the foundation first with some of our foundation stitches, single crochet, half double crochet, treble crochet, and then we're going to get into some of these really fun textures. So let me make sure that you like the double cam? You like my use of my dog crate? It was handy. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and get myself set up here, and let's do block 2. You're going to, one thing I want you guys to do right now is I want you to make a note for yourself. I put out a crochet materials list for 3 colors, A, B, and C. A is going to be your color that's going to have the most ounces that you purchased, and then we have B and C. Really determine right now and write it down somewhere so you know which color's B, which color's C. I know which one of mine's A, B, and C, but if I tell you, well, grab your gray yarn or grab your teal yarn, it's not going to apply to you if you have different colors. So I would suggest using the lightest of your colors for the, for the border and for the outer edge of your work, but you don't have to. However you already have it in your head, how you want your blanket to look, that's what you can do. But so for instance, I believe last week we started with color B. This is my color B is going to be gray. My color A is going to be my trim. My color C is the beautiful teal color that I just showed you on one of our little samples there for our little puff stitch. So I'm going to get my color C. I'm going to take myself down off of the camera here now. I was MacGyvering MacGyverson last night. Yeah, I was rigging stuff like you would not. Okay, I have a wooden crate, my ring light stand, pipe cleaners, and the panel from the dog crate. And then my phone sits on top. I was rigging it together. So I'm going to take myself down and we're going to go ahead and get started on our block 2. Oh, see, my camera won't give me a full screenshot there. This is one of the things I was experiencing and having difficulty with. Again, it'll work for me fine. I even wrote it all down, guys. I wrote the whole process down so that I didn't end up with this landscape or this portrait. view, but I can't help it. It just didn't work today, and I don't want to take the time to muss with it and fuss with it and take time away from you because your time is important. So let's get started. We're going to start with a simple slip knot. That's what I just did right there. You know, there's a couple ways you can do your slip knot. I'm going to be putting out another tutorial just for some crochet basics. One way you can do it is, of course, just kind of like how you tie your shoes, do a little twist, pull that loop through, and pull it tight. So another way that I'll show you in a tutorial coming up is you can wrap your yarn around your finger twice. You're going to take the back one, hopscotch over the front one, or leapfrog, however you want to say it. Then take the one that's in back and leapfrog it all the way off the end of your finger and give it a nice little tug, and you've got a nice little slip stitch there. I'll be doing a tutorial on that later. Okay, friends, let's get started. Just like last week, I have some banners to put up across the bottom of our screen to show you what we're going to do. And it says, I'm going to have to fix B or C. Anyways, take your third color today. If you did, you know, for instance, color B last week, do color C this week. We'll figure out. I, for some reason, wrote B here. I'm not sure if I was supposed to put B or C, but there we go. With our color of choice today, either B or C, one of the two that has the least amount of yardage and one that you did not use last week, go ahead and get that. You're going to get it on your hook and you're going to loosely chain 27. Good morning, wifey. So we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and chain 27. 1, 2, 3, loosely, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I got to sneeze. Excuse me. Oh my God, where was I? 22, 23. Is that where I was? 24, 25, 26, 27. I'm going to have to double check because I sneezed and lost where I was. My goodness. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Boy, did I mess that one up. Double checking. Always double check. It's easier to double check. Thank you, Major. Always easier to double check than to continue forward and find out your count was wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Pulled out one too many. 27. Lesson learned, do not sneeze in the middle of a count. Oh, you get to use your purple yarn today, Nisi. Oh, how fun. That's going to be fun. All right, let me switch out our banner. If you have your 27 and we're ready to move on, one thing I want to share with you is I did have a response from somebody who's participating in our crochet along, and they said, I can't crochet as fast as you for this reason or that, and I don't take it personal, but I'm just not going to do this. I want to say to those of you who possibly feel this way, I am trying to slow things down as best as I can without spending, 2-3 hours on a live, but the live's going to be available to you so you can replay it at your leisure. You can replay it anytime you want. So you can always come back and get caught up. I don't want you to worry about having to keep up with anyone. So make sure that you take that into consideration. Also, if you have tips or tricks that you like to use based on how you learned to crochet, use them. I'm going to try to keep this as simplified as possible for those of us who are just getting into this, and I don't want to trip anybody up with any special little tricks. I'm going to do this as simple as I would if I were teaching a class. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and switch that banner for row 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. If you watch the tutorials, you should have no issues at all doing your half double crochet. So I'm going to hold this up here, see if I can get it right where I need it. Let's try it right about here. Here's our 1st chain from the hook, our 2nd chain from the hook. This is our 3rd chain from the hook. We're going to be working into this chain right here. We're going to yarn over, put our hook into that chain, grab our yarn and pull it back through. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over again and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Just like that, and we've made this cute little half double crochet. You're going to half double crochet in every chain along here, and we should have 25 when we're done. So I'm going to count quietly to myself so I don't throw off your chain and stitch count. And then when I get to the end of the row, I will miraculously start speaking again. I know sometimes y'all wish I just wouldn't, right? When you replay Alicia, you get to see her do the YouTube dance. I replayed her last live several times, taking notes last week. Yes, get back into your crocheting, Pure Pondering. Oh, good to see Nisi. It's nice for you to say that, or not Nisi. Wifey, Laquita. You should pick it up and see if you can join us. This would be fun. So here's number 1. I'm going to continue to count to myself quietly, and I'm going to bring my hands back down so I don't get a shoulder ache. Got ahead of myself, almost put the wrong stitch in. It's really hard for me to not talk. Mhm. I can't help it. I'm going to do it. 23, 24, and 25. So let's double check my work here. We have these little V's on the top of our work. Each one is a stitch. So let's see what I ended up with here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we want 25 half double crochet for row 1. If I were to bring up our square from last week, you'll see that the half double crochet is much wider than our single crochet. It's going to take less rows for us to reach our required size of approximately 7 inches before we put our border on. Now, I was contacted by Denise Passell over at Green Granny 2, and she said, my square is bigger than what you said it would be. You know, I want you guys to keep in mind everybody has their own tension that they put on the yarn, and you crochet at a different gauge. So as long as your square ends up being a true square, like what we talked about last week, take your block, fold it on the diagonal, and if it meets up like this and makes this nice little triangle, you're square. Don't worry if it's not 7 inches or if it's not 8 inches, if it's 7.5 or 6.5, it's okay. Good morning, Cha-Cha Love. Good morning, Lynette from Coffee Angel Crafts. So here's our row 1. And I'm sorry, guys, I just cannot. No music or anything. I can't just crochet and not talk. So apologies in advance if I throw off your stitch count. But I think my yammering here a little bit. I'm going to take a little drink of water while you guys get done with row 1. And of course, the microphone's right here next to my mouth. You're going to hear every little hiccup and everything else. So let me go ahead and change our banner so we can move on to row 2. You know, I stayed up late last night and I put these little banners, and I just used the banners I had for the single crochet, and I don't think I did this one right. Let me double check something real quick, and I need to edit this. Is it going to let me edit it? Yes, it is. Let me edit this real quick, guys. I need to fix something for you. There we go. I think I've got it handled for you now. Let me save this and let me add this back up. Okay, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. Oh, I can't speak this morning. I'm going on very little sleep. So we're going to chain 2. After we complete row 1 with 25 half double crochets, chain 2 and turn our work. Now we want to half double crochet in the first half double crochet from the row previous. It's important to know where your last one was and where your next one is, because some of our blocks are going to say crochet in the first or crochet in the next. This block, we're going to crochet in the first. This is our first half double crochet of our previous round. This is a chain here. So we're going to go into our first half double crochet right here, and we're going to complete a half double crochet, and that's 1. Yarn over into your stitch, grab your yarn and pull it through, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. We're going to do the half double crochet all the way down to the end for row 2, making sure that you have 25. So that was 2, 3, 4. My dogs are all barking. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let me switch back over to comments and see what's going on. I'm not going to forget that I'm at 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And our very last one, remember to make sure you get through both loops on your very last one on the row. Those are a little tricky sometimes. And 25. And there we have row 2 of our half double crochet block. There's a lot of math going on. I can see me making a crooked sweater. You know, it happens. There's times I make crooked squares. It happens. It's something that you have to definitely pay attention to, but it's not a stressful thing once you get some of the basics down. It can be very relaxing. It's a very nice way to spend the evening, is just working on a really nice hand crocheted piece. So that is the end of row 2. And you can see that our edging here is very nice and straight, nice even stitches. Now, I do want to say that it was mentioned earlier, there was a question from Nisi over at Freehandly. She wanted to know if we need to block these. You don't have to block these. Once we put everything together, they should fit just fine. But I do want you to keep in mind, if you're a tight crocheter like I am, this single crochet stitch, I'm a very tight crocheter. This might be a little bit smaller than what my other blocks turn out to be. You can block if you want to. However, if you're going to block using a wet towel, some steam, and an iron, just be very careful with your acrylic yarns. You can singe them. You won't, it's even on a low setting. If you're not careful, these can melt. So just be really careful if you're going to choose to block. I personally have never had to block any of these. They fit together just fine, but it's going to be a personal preference if you find out that you've got one block that's bigger than another. I use a stitch marker to help me remember where my first stitch is for each new row. Very good, Nisi. Seems relaxing to me, and your voice is soothing. Oh, thank you, Cha-Cha Love. I appreciate that, love. So we're done with row 2. I did some little chit-chat time so you could make sure that you're down to the end of row 2 before I move on. Let me go back over to banners, and I'll put our next one up. And look, it's going to be this easy. We are going to repeat row 2 until our block is approximately, doesn't have to be exact, approximately 7 inches. Now, again, we're going to get to the point where it looks like it's going to be square. We'll fold it over, and we will make sure that it is indeed square before we go on to our edging. So just like in row 2, we're down here to the end. We're going to crochet 2 and turn our work. We're going to go into this very first half double crochet, and we're going to crochet in each stitch across to the end. We should have 25 half double crochet. I want to remind you, I'm going to hold this up here. When you put your hook into your stitch, you want to do so from the front of your work, going through both the front loop and the back loop. You want to catch this entire little V that's at the very top of your stitch. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into this stitch here and work our first half double crochet of row 3. yarn over into the stitch, grabbing your yarn, pulling it through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap your yarn around your hook and pull it through all 3. That's 1. Yarn over into the very next stitch, grabbing that yarn and pulling it back through. Yarn over your hook and pull that yarn through all 3 loops that are on your hook. You know, when I was teaching my granddaughter to crochet, she was just having a little bit of a difficulty in understanding the concept of what I wanted her to do. So I would tell her, you're going to wrap, this is a little rabbit. You're going to put a little leash on the little rabbit and he's going to run under the fence. He's going to get the other end of that leash and bring it back over to this side of the fence for you. Wrap that and pull it through. She really liked the concept of running under the fence and coming back out the other side. Let me turn this back over onto comments so I can see what everybody's talking about. Isn't this a beautiful color? Stitch markers, Gwen says she's never used stitch markers. They can be a great tool for some patterns and not necessarily needed for others. Again, it's a personal preference. If it gives you the sense of security of knowing where you are. I know there's a project I'm working on right now, and I use stitch markers just because I use them as a way to count my rows so I don't have to go back and start over. If you're doing something that has a lot of rows and your pattern has the requirement for a specific number of rows, I don't like starting at 1 and counting all the way to 68. I like putting stitch markers every 5 rows, and that way I could just go 5, 10, 15, 20, and I know where I am. So they do have a great purpose, and especially if you're working in the round, it's a really nice thing as well. So it's a personal preference. It gives you a sense of security and knowing where you are, and you don't have to waste time recounting. So again, personal preference. I love that we have all of these neat little tools available to us so that we can perfect our craft. So I'm just going to kind of yammer on here as I work my half double crochets down the end of row 3. And again, this stitch is a little bit wider than our single crochet, so we're going to be able to finish this block much quicker than we did the last block. I haven't been timing them, but once you get going and you understand the stitch and you don't yammer on forever like me, you can get these done in a relatively quick amount of time. And that's what's nice too about having the video available on replay. If you need to pause and go do something, if you need to go back and do a count, you can always come back to it. It's always going to be here for you guys. And I'll be working. I'm really upset that I've got this in this portrait mode instead of landscape. Oh, the camera issues. You guys have no idea how many hours I've spent trying to get this top down perfected. And we did a test run on Sunday and it was great. Followed all the same steps today. And look at us, here we are in portrait. What can I say? Other than I thank you guys for sticking with me despite the technical difficulties. Hello, Lisa, and hello, Paul Honeymoon. Honeyman. Let's see what happens when I don't wear my glasses. I'm in the honeymoon stage with Paul Honeyman. He's come back to pay us a visit this week. The stitch markers are helpful to know about. Thanks, Nisi. I'm so distracted. The markers will help. Yes, they do. So, Lisa, I'm glad you've joined us. We just finished row 3 of our half double crochet. And again, for those of you who are just joining us, there are tutorials up on my page for both left-handed and right-handed. So at the end of our row here, we're going to chain 2 and turn. We're going to do a half double crochet right here into our very first half double crochet from the row below. Yarn over, pull through your yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And it's neat because once you get going, you get this nice little rhythm. Once you get familiar with your stitch, it's almost like a dance. Nisi was saying earlier that you get to watch this back and watch my YouTube crochet dance. This is pretty much it. It's like a dance. with yarn. So it's over, in, over, pull through, over, pull through 2. And you just get this nice little rhythm. My little blind dog is down there barking. He has water. He has food. He's not up on the couch, so I don't have to worry about him falling. I think he's worried that I've left and he doesn't know that he's, I think he thinks he's home alone, and he's not. He's got the other dogs there too. He'll settle down in just a little bit. That sweet boy. Now, again, as you're watching this, you do not have to try to keep up with the speed that I'm going at. If you need to become a little bit more familiar with this stitch, there are the tutorials. You can stop, rewind, replay as needed. And there's our last stitch on that row. Do I need watch hours? Thank you for asking, Gail. I need about 514 watch hours, I think. Alicia, I hope your watch hours are getting close. I played your longest playlist last night. Thank you, Paul. I have not checked my hours needed this morning. As of last night, it was about 500 plus was what I needed. And I told myself, don't get on this live and don't talk about stuff like that. Don't tell people how many subscribers you need. Don't tell people how many hours you need. But since somebody breached the subject, I will say, I think as of last time I checked, I am in requirement of, what was it? 35 new YouTube family members is all I need, 35, and about 500 watch hours. And I will reach those goals before my birthday, which is what I wanted. Still short. Okay, thank you. Sorry, not sorry. You're good. Everything's good. I appreciate it, guys. I really, really, truly do. All right, moving on to our next row. We've crocheted 2 and turned our work. Yarn over, going into this very first stitch here. Grabbing our yarn, pulling it through. Yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Now, I'm going to set this down for a minute, guys, as you're crocheting. And if you're already done with row 4 and you're moving on, that's fine. But I did want to share with those who just came in. My birthday is in April. Can I put you on? Oh, I can put you on in my dining room. I wanted to share with you guys, this is some of our earlier stitch. This is a foundation stitch that we're going to be working on. Not foundation in the sense that is an actual stitch. You can do a foundation stitch. I'm just saying these are the basics. We're doing single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet. And before I lose you guys, when we get into week 4 of these types of crochets without texture, I've already shared this with some that are in the live this morning, but I did want to show you this adorable little puff stitch that we'll be doing in the weeks coming up. If I turn that sideways, look at the texture. Look at the texture of that beautiful stitch. Now imagine, once we get our Afghan all put together, our hashtag heirloom Afghan CAL, sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee and just being able to rub your fingers over these little puff stitches as you're sipping your coffee. Oh, it's so neat. And there's going to be a lot of stitches like this. What's really unique and neat about this stitch here, this little puff stitch, you can do a puff stitch or a popcorn stitch, which we will probably, I believe we'll also be doing that in this pattern as well, coming up. But you know, my mother lost her vision after brain surgery. And while she was in the intensive care unit, I used this exact color of teal. I'm going to have to find that blanket. I know I've got it here somewhere. This exact color of teal and raspberry pink. And I did alternating skills, and I used these little puff stitches to create the shape of a heart on one block and then a cat on another. And so I made a kitty cat and a heart motif blanket for my mother. And when she was out of intensive care at the neurological ward up at Mayo Clinic, she would sit with that blanket and she could feel the shape of the heart and she could feel the shape of the cats. And so she really enjoyed this stitch. So just know that this is coming up. Okay, Cha Cha, I'm so glad you were able to stop in. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying it, pure pondering, while you're getting your desk work done. The stitching looks like a row of cabbages in a field. Yes, Paul, it does. Isn't that a neat way to look at it? Isn't it neat how you can look at something like that and apply it to something you see in nature? That's so great. We're going to have stars. We're going to have cables. We're going to have all kinds of fun things coming up. Good morning, Tiny Tim. Welcome. Welcome. I'm going to continue on. I just wanted to share that with you guys and give you a little bit of time to get caught up on crochet. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my next couple of rows done and share with you that I was able to get caught up this morning with Gail Southern Living, aka Coupon Gail, and get caught up on some of her Gail tales. And I appreciate her shout outs so much. You know, I like to tell stories. That's what musing is a reflection, looking back on things. And oftentimes I tell my stories during my coffee chat time. And Gail said that she was inspired to do Gail's Tales. We were talking about it one day, and Gail's Tales just came to her, and she said, "That's it. That's what I'm going to call it." And I thought it was a wonderful idea. And so she has started Gail's Tales over on her channel, Gail Southern Living. So she's got some stories to share. And I thought, you know, I did tell one story in a video about the punch bowl that I had at a yard sale one time. And I shared that story. And I often wondered if I should just reflect on my stories the way I do or actually read them as I have them written down in my blog. And I thought about it this morning. I was thinking about it after I watched Gail. And I realized, you know, people don't always come back and watch replays of my coffee chats. And so sometimes they don't know the stories. When I talk about my, you know, being a potential shark attack victim, they're like, "What? I don't know this story." I was like, "Well, I've told it 10 times in my coffee chats." And they say, "Well, I don't get to catch the coffee chats." And I realize they don't go back for a replay. So I think what I'm going to do is I was thinking about it this morning and I was thinking of a name. What name can I come up with? What name can I come up with? And I want you guys to share in the chat. If I were to do, I want to do it like story time. I want to sit down with a cup of tea and have my oil lamp lit and just read to you, like I'm reading out of a book, some of my stories that I have written down that are in my blog. So I will share with you the name that I came up for those little segments, just like Gail came up with Gail's Tales. But you know, in the chat, if you can come up with something too that might strike my fancy, I might use that instead. So let me see. Make them into videos, Gail says. Great idea. I am going to do that. Thank you. Huga Homestead's in the house. Welcome. Lakita is working and listening too. We read tale stories too because people come at different times. Yes, people come in at the end of a story or in the middle of a story and they don't go back and they don't get the beginning of the story. You know, I actually we'll get back to the name of this little channel that or the little segments that I want to do in a second. I've got another channel and I've just started sharing some of the videos in another format, and it's tips and tricks about, you know, being a cancer survivor, things I learned, things like meeting your oncologist for the first time and that first appointment and getting your port placed and all this other stuff. And I had actually shared it with one of my cancer support groups. And a woman wrote me and she said, "Oh my goodness, is the cancer back? Are you going through it again?" Because she sees this picture of me in my scarf with no hair and showing my port. And the port is the device that's placed in your chest to administer. That's where you administer your chemotherapy instead of an IV. And I had to explain to her, no, you know, I'm just making these videos. Well, if she would have watched the video, she would have known and not panicked. So I find that people will not they just jump to conclusions. So I get people who jump to conclusions about some of my stories. I didn't go through where I wanted to go through on that one. Oh, yes, I did. See, I make mistakes. Chain 2 and turn. So let me see. Yes, it's going to be something with musings, my memory musings, memory musings. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. I think sometimes when you tell a story, it is amusing in itself, right? Not like a space musing, but amusing as in funny. So I thought I would do something like amusing moments with mama and make it one word, amusing. Amusing moments with mama. And so it's a play on the word musing. We get mama in there. I'm going to set my camera up. I realize now I'm going to have to get more either mic stands or ring lights or something so I can not take apart this contraption that I put together to hold this camera today, even though it's in the wrong position. And I just want to sit down and I think I'm going to actually read out of a book. Do I have my stories in book form? No. Don't tell anybody. I'll have a beautiful book, and inside of the book will be my iPad. I'll read them off of my iPad from my blog. But I thought it would be really nice to share those stories in that format because not everybody gets to see these lives where I talk about the space shuttle, raising 4 boys, tarantulas in the desert, windstorms in the desert, shark attacks. Okay, potential shark attacks, kidnappings. Oh, no, they're not kidnappings, bear nappings, where I kidnapped a bear, a little stuffed bear, post-it notes, donkeys in wells. I mean, goodness sakes, I have all kinds of stories that I like to share. So I'm going to start looking into filming and scheduling some of those amazing moments with mama. Amusing moments, not amazing, amusing. Oh, Huga, are you not behaving yourself? I met my new oncologist last week. Gotta say, the Doogie Howser. Oh goodness, what is CB saying? I gotta scroll back up. It's so funny because it won't let me do it. Let's see. I met my new oncologist last week. Gotta say, the Doogie Howser is handsome. Oh, I like it when you can get a good working relationship with your oncologist. So it's so important. You like that name, Gail? Amusing moments with mama. Watching the hook go through the yarn is like watching my mama as a kid. Oh, Paul, isn't that a wonderful memory? But I still didn't see. Oh, okay. So yeah, Huga's talking about Doogie Howser. She's getting the doctor crushes going on there with the Hoogie Doogie. It's rhythmic and relaxing watching the hook go in. Yes. Um, and yeah, CB, keep us informed what's going on. We want to make sure that we keep you in our prayers. I love the space shuttle story. I laughed a lot. Oh my gosh, that space shuttle story. My son's almost 40. He's still upset with me for that one. Amusing moments with mama. Yep. I think I like that one. Um, you know, I'll share it with you here just because, we're all friends and family here. I watched Gail's stories this morning. I got caught up with her Gail's Tales. And then I thought, oh, I better pee before I run upstairs to do our live today. So I do my best thinking sitting in the bathroom. So I had to go in for a tinkle. And I was sitting there going, what am I going to call these little segments that I want to do for the stories? Oh, I know. It finally came to me. Amusing moments with mama. So that's what I'll be doing. So I will read them exactly as I have them written. If you'd like to go over and check out the blog, you can, but it might be spoiler alert for future videos. I haven't checked my stats on my blog in years. I know it used to really excite me to go on and check the stats and see how many times my stories have been read and how many countries. I don't know, last time it was like 76 different countries around the world people had stopped in to read my blog. I don't make any money off of it or anything. I was just doing it to kind of chronicle some of my happenings with raising 4 boys. And um, raising 4 boys is actually what helped me select the title for that blog. And it's my life as a grape in a box of rocks, because I just felt sometimes, as raising 4 boys, I felt like I was a grape being squished. So it was my life as a grape in a box of rocks. And someday I hope to be squeezed enough to become a fine wine. Best thinking, sitting on the throne. Absolutely. And yes, Huga, prayers and keep us going. Biopsy on St. Patrick's Day should be okay. All right. Well, we'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers on that day for your biopsy. Have fun with it. I know it's a scary time. I've had several biopsies done myself, and it can be daunting, to say the least. But if you can bring in a sense of humor, and I probably don't need to tell you this, you probably know this. Bring in a sense of humor, have fun. I actually, I had to have 2 breast biopsies done a few years ago, and sweetest doctor ever. And we joked and laughed, and because he has to keep a steady hand as he's, injecting these needles into my breasts to get samples for the biopsy and everything, I'm telling jokes, and he had to stop in the middle of the procedure and leave the room because he was laughing. He says, you've got to stop. I can't keep a steady hand, and I'm afraid I'm going to hurt you. So can we take 5 minutes, please, and just stop with the jokes? And I said, okay. But it's what soothes me. It helps me get through those times. And so try to have a sense of humor as you go through that biopsy. And if it's something you've never gone through before, and maybe something I have, I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you in a chat or something to see if I have any tips to help you. If it's something you've gone through before, then you know. Some biopsies are easier than others. Some I've done and have learned a lot, and know that next time I will be sedated. Some biopsies I'm fine telling jokes. Others I've learned I'm just going to say, hey, knock me out, because I don't want to do this one awake anymore. So it's good to learn from each other so we can help each other get through. So CB, you just let me know if there's anything at all I can do for you. I'm here for you. Let's see. Gotta going, girl. Oh, goodness. Oh, bye, Gail. You're leaving? All right, sweetie. I missed something Honeyman was talking about. He does his best thinking on the throne. That's what everybody's LOLing about. Doing his thinking on the throne. My brother-in-law came up from Texas a couple years ago, and he was just going to stay one night, and then he and Papa Jim were going to fly out to Sacramento to see their mama, because she was going through her own thing with a mass on her kidney. And the boys wanted to go out and spend some time with her. And my brother-in-law gets here, and he's taking a look around the farm. He's happy to see the farm. He had never seen it before except for pictures on Facebook. And I said, "Ooh, Joe, follow me. I want to show you my favorite thing to do in the bathroom." You should have seen the look of confusion and terror, apprehension, embarrassment. He didn't know what I was going to do. But oddly enough, he followed me into the bathroom. And I had a loaf of bread. I don't know what he thought I was going to do with the loaf of bread. But he followed me in. We're on our next row. We've chained 2 and turned our work. We're going to work into our first half double crochet right here. So he followed me into the bathroom. I said, "This is my favorite thing to do in here." And again, his eyes are like the size of $50 because he doesn't know what I'm going to do. And I lifted the window. The bread was a little stale, and I like to treat the coop kids every once in a while to just a little something. And so don't get on me for throwing bread to my chickens. It's not a habit I do all the time. I should have made croutons out of them, but I opened the window and I said, "Come and get it, kids." And all of the coop kids, the chickens, the turkeys, the guinea fowl, and the potbelly pig all come running round the corner because they know that that window is where they get extra treats. If I have extra salad greens that are starting to get a little limp or something, all of my little goodies go out the window for them and they just come running. And he laughed. He thought, "Oh man, I was so afraid. I didn't know what you were going to do. I didn't know what I was in for." Oh, I said, "I know, but I do like to shock people with that." It's like, "Come on, I want to show you what's my favorite thing to do in the bathroom." Oh, that was fun when he was here, though. I was so glad to see the look of relief on his face when he realized I was just giving the kids a treat. And it's funny now because even though the coop kids have full range of their chicken yard, and then I open the gate and let them go out into the orchard, if they see movement in that bathroom, I mean, you can just go in to brush your teeth or wash your hands or, get an aspirin out of the cabinet. They come running. They come running to that window because they know that window is where their bounty comes from. All things good come out of that window. So if you're moving in there, they come running. All right, let's go. Let's see what's going on here in the chat. Oh, Gail's not leaving. Oh, she set up a live for 1 hour for now so I can move it if I need to. Okay, Gail. Laura's here from Hedgehog Homestead. Welcome in, Laura. Be mean to be negative or attention seeking. Got lots of good stuff going on too. My house sold under contract and business sold. Closing Friday. That's wonderful, CB. Don't you worry about that. Being negative, you're not being negative. This is a time for sharing and gabbing. It's almost like an old sewing circle. We can all sit around and just talk. Oh, you have the list going. Thank you. Thank you. You're not being negative at all. It's life, CB. It's life. Don't you worry about it. Yeah, there's nothing negative here, guys. Wifey says on YouTube, there's Dr. Colin Campbell, Dr. Dean Ornish, blah, 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 all these different doctors for options on reversing cancer with food and natural methods at Huga. Seed Faith Homestead saying, hello, got conference calls this morning. Thanks for stopping in. Oh, are we going to go through these bad word things again about what we can't call ourselves? There's where we need to have our positivity, is how we talk about ourselves. I am smart. I am kind. I am beautiful. And we're going to use proper grammar. I am smart. I am kind. I am beautiful. I'm going to be doing a video coming up along those lines because when we open ourselves up in social media, we do so with the understanding that not everybody's going to be kind and thoughtful. And we subject ourselves to negativity sometimes in our comments. Sometimes people are just mean. And maybe they don't even know that they're being mean. Sometimes it's not that they're being mean, it's how we accept that comment, how we interpret that comment. There's so much that's lost in the written word because there's no tone, there's no influx. So something that somebody shares that they think might be just a common statement or a random statement or even a statement of support can get misinterpreted as something negative because there's no tone there. So I'm going to be doing a video about that, about something that we taught our kids when I worked at the school. So stay tuned for that because I think it's important as we're in this world of social media that we take this concept that I want to share. Let's see. If I only shared the good stuff, it wouldn't feel honest. Absolutely, that is true. Been needing to do a live for this channel, says Coupon Gail. I got out of the habit doing lives after taking care of my mom. Now I need to get back to doing them again. All in your own time, Gail. All in your own time. It's your way of laughing at yourself. My name is not Homestead. Did I goof that? Did I do that? Did I do that? If I can laugh at if I can't laugh at myself, why bother? Laugh and the world laughs with you. I agree. And that is something that I'm a goofball because if I can't laugh at myself, exactly, what good am I? I laugh at myself. I do goofy things all the time. My husband has to reel me in sometimes because I'm that goofy person. And I do laugh at myself. It's one thing that actually got me through my journey with cancer was that sense of humor. I used to put my IV pole, if the medication that they had me on, I'll share this with you and not be gruesome or anything. Um, the chemotherapy cocktail that I had a specific medication in it that made me have to pee. I had to tinkle every half an hour. And when you are in a chair for a chemotherapy infusion for 12 hours, that's a lot of trips to the little girl's room. I tell you. So, I would have to get up out of my chair and unplug those big IV poles and push that IV pole all the way into the little girl's room, do my business, wash up, come back out. So you're dragging around this IV pole with you everywhere you go. And more than once, I would get to the middle of the room where, the majority of the other patients could, see what's going on in that center of the room there, as well as the nurse's station. And I would pole dance on my IV pole. I would pretend to pole dance. And I just had a good time and people laughed. I've got a great picture of me pole dancing on my IV pole in a purple shirt with a Cabbage Patch wig that I crocheted. So even though I was completely bald, sometimes I would run around town with a Cabbage Patch wig in this bright daffodil yellow. It was so much fun. And I had little ribbons, it was tied into braids and I had ribbons. But I would have people come up and say, thank you for doing that because I'm just really having a bad day. I mean, nobody wants to sit in a chemotherapy chair. Nobody wants to be there. But if you've got somebody that's going to make you laugh, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with. And another time I crocheted a simple cap to wear on my head. Look how quickly this is coming together, guys. I crack myself up, but just shakes head at me. Oh, your boyfriend just shakes his head. I crocheted this little hat and then I glued pom-poms all over it so they looked like gumballs. I know you guys have seen the little meme of the little kids that dress up like gumball machines. Well, for my very last chemotherapy, I dressed up as a gumball machine. And I brought little candies up to the center because, you can't give hugs or anything. If I would have been, and this is pre-pandemic, if I would have been a healthy individual and around people who were healthy individuals, I would have given out hugs. But instead, I gave out little suckers, little Tootsie Pops. So I had a little sign on myself as a gumball machine. And it just said gumballs 25 cents or a smile. And I would walk around in between my bathroom breaks while I was hooked up to my chemotherapy. And I would show people my sign, almost like a mime. I would just smile and show them the sign. And if they smiled back at me, I let them pick out what their treat was out of the little bag that I had. And again, I would have people say, you know what, I was having a really cruddy day. Thank you so much for doing that. It did probably more I don't want to say it that way because it almost sounds selfish. It did just as much for me as it did for the people who found joy in it because it was a good distraction for me. Those are long hours hooked up to chemotherapy like that, and I needed that distraction. And what's neat is I look back on that time, and if I had not done something like that, I would have gotten up 10, 15, 20 times to go tinkle and really not remembered anything significant. I wouldn't look back and say, yeah, I have some really great stories from when I was on chemo. But now, because of those little shenanigans, I can look back on them and have those happy memories during a stressful time. So it was a really nice distraction. And, it was a distraction for Papa Jim too, because I look back on some of the pictures during that time in our lives, and it was very hard on him. But, he had to keep me reined in. It gave him something to do other than worrying about the diagnosis, worrying about the chemotherapy, because I was being goofy. Now, Tracy, I would never call you Shirley. And don't call me Shirley. Another time I brought, I think it was my second treatment. My brother had a T-Rex, a little T-Rex, 7, 8 inches tall, little plastic T-Rex dinosaur. And I took the T-Rex with me to chemo. And we did a photo shoot with the T-Rex dinosaur during my chemo treatment. And it was funny because, I got the nurses involved and everything because, T-Rexes have these tiny little arms. And so I have pictures of my nurse pretending to give a shot to my T-Rex. They were a steroid shot so he could beef up a little bit and work on those tiny, puny little arms. And she just had so much fun with that. That was so much fun. I've got a great picture of the T-Rex angled just right so it almost looked like he's trying to bite the bag that my chemo cocktail was in as it was hanging from my pole. And I wrote about how my T-Rex was mistaking my chemotherapy for a juice box, and we had to get our T-Rex a juice box. Just little fun things like that. I had gotten a really pretty pedicure before I started treatment, and I've got pictures of T-Rex, pretending to nibble on my toes. And, it's a fun thing to look back on. And I posted all of that to Facebook, and my brother got a kick out of it because he was like, "What do you want my dinosaur for?" This is a grown man in his late 50s who's got this dinosaur at his work, and I grabbed it and kidnapped it, and I dino napped it, and I had a fun little photo shoot with that dinosaur. So Jim has to keep me reined in sometimes. I'm a nut. But those are the things that I want my family and my friends to remember. Okay. So as I've been chatting with you, we've been working on this half double crochet square. Get that centered there. CB says, all the med staff I had to show them got a set of beads and they loved it. Oh, that's neat. With you being in here, I just figured instead of Tiny Tim Cratchit, we have our own Tiny Tim Crochet. Oh, it is challenging if you're trying to participate while you're working on a live. Absolutely. But you know what? Those of us who do the lives, we understand. We're just happy that you visit us and that you're listening, even if you're doing other work. So the boys are having a good time giving names to each other. Now, I have not kept track of how many rows I've done on this at all. I've just been talking to you and crocheting. I like to imagine that you're all just over at my house visiting and we're just sitting on the couch and just gossiping and gabbing. I'm going to fold this top corner over and have it line up with the bottom of my square. And look, it does not make a perfect triangle yet. So I have to put one, maybe two more rows in. We'll put one in and then we'll test this again. And that'll let me know if I have to do one more after that. But we're almost there. So I'm going to chain two, and turn my work. And again, I'm going to do 25 half double crochet across the top, making sure I work a half double crochet in every single stitch across. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. I'm going to put my chain 2 in just to secure that so I don't lose it. You know, we were talking about stitch markers earlier. You know, a stitch marker is a great tool. We were talking about the uses for them, but I want to show you something that's important. And you don't have to use your stitch markers while you're doing your work if you don't feel the need to do so. But you know what? If you are in the middle of a project and you have to go somewhere, do something, there's nothing worse than finding out that you've lost either a stitch or a row, or your cat got a hold of your crochet and drug it around the house. You know, you can use a stitch holder, and that's going to keep my work from coming undone. So this is a great little trick too. If you have a work in progress, which is known as a WIP, W-I-P, work in progress, and you have to set it aside for whatever reason, maybe you ran out of yarn and you have to buy more, or you've got a hand injury and you need to wait for a little while, whatever it is, going on vacation, use a stitch marker to make sure that nothing's going to happen and nothing's going to come undone. This is really great too to do if you're taking your work with you. If you take work with you in a handbag or a purse or a bag, I don't know, whatever you want to say. And, you know, sometimes I like to take crochet with me up to the doctor's appointments, especially when I was in chemo. I would take crochet projects with me to work on in the chair. This is a great way to make sure that while you're in transit back and forth, working on your work, putting it away, you're not going to lose the work that you've already done. So there's a little tip as far as the stitch markers go. So we completed that one row. I'm going to fold it over again and check to see if we're closer to having that perfect square that we want. And we're not quite there. We're very close. I want to tell you, if you get to this point where you have just this little bit here, don't say, that's close enough. I'm going to stop right here. Do yourself the favor, take the extra 3 minutes. It's going to take 5 minutes. Get that next row in, because I'm pretty sure after this next row, we're going to be perfectly square. So let me see what everybody's doing in chat here. The boys are having so much fun. You boys play nice in my sandbox now. I want everybody to get along. Let's do our last row of 25. So we're going to go into this stitch, yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. This will be our last 25, I believe, for our main square for block number 2 for our heirloom Afghan. And I so wish I could have music playing in the background, but boy, that didn't work last week, did it? It did sound like really tinny, clanky music that you would hear like on an old carousel or something, or an old merry-go-round. So I didn't bring the classical music in this time. We'll have to find something else. Maybe if I play it on a device further away, it will filter across the room and not pick up on the audio so tinny. We'll give it a try. You know, let me master how to set the camera up first, because obviously, despite my best efforts, I flubbed that again today. Someday, I promise, it's going to be effortless. I promise to have it worked out. I will iron out all the wrinkles by square 63, which is our last square. Then we'll get together and we'll actually put our Afghan together. There's 25. I'm just going to put a couple of chains in here to hold the place. And let's try this again. Make sure that this is centered well. taking your crocheting or book or something with you to doctor appointments is a very wise thing. My mama taught us to do that. I'm completely bewildered by people who don't. I know just sitting there, I'll tell you the worst thing is going to your doctor's appointment and you have to sit out in the waiting room for half an hour. And they always have a talk show on that is almost unbearable. It's like, why do you have this on? Or it's a soap opera. A soap opera. They always have a soap opera. It's either an unbearable talk show or a soap opera. And then, I don't watch soap operas, but you have nothing else to do if you didn't bring something with you. So you're sitting there and you just get caught up on who's doing what. And then they call you back and then you never know, did somebody get murdered? Or are they the father of this baby? I don't know. So I folded over our square in our diagonal, and look, I've got a perfect little triangle. It lined up on all sides. Oh, adult coloring. That's wonderful. I did adult coloring. I had an adult coloring book when I was going through chemo, and I did a little bit of the coloring, but I'll tell you what, they gave me Benadryl before they would start my infusion, and it would make me so sleepy. So the coloring would make me fall asleep even faster. So once you get to where your square is indeed square, and I'm going to check here. I found one of my little measuring tapes. So I brought it, and we are at 8 inches. Now, my square with the single crochet, it's already at 8 inches. So I may need to redo this one, make it a little bit looser, or just not worry about it. And when I join them together, this is going to naturally get a little bit of a stretch. Once I make my blanket, it will stretch out a little bit. I'm a tight crocheter, and some of these are going to be looser stitches, but I'm not going to worry about it. I probably could have crocheted a little tighter on this one. I tried to tell myself to loosen up a little bit, chick. So I'm going to change our banner because now that we have our square done, we need to work on the edging. So I'm going to do edging round 1. And what I want you to know is once you get to your very last row and you have this perfect square that you can turn into a triangle, don't cut your yarn. You do not want to finish this off yet because our first row around of our edging is going to be in the same color. So for our edging, I'm going to take these 2 chains out that I did before I turned because I have to wait for my little banner to come across here again. So for round 1 for edging, we're just going to chain 1 now. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn. And this is where you have to train your brain to know that now we're working single crochets again. So we're going to go into this very first single crochet and we're going to do 3 single crochets. This will make our first corner. 1, 2, 3. And as I lay that down, you can see that we're going to have a nice little rounded corner here. So now in between here, we have 25 stitches all the way across. We're going to utilize 2 of those stitches for our corners. That leaves us 23, but we still need 25 single crochets in between our corners. So I'm going to crochet, 10 or 12, and then I'll put 2 into one stitch, do another 5 or 6, put 2 in the stitch, as long as I end up with 25 all the way across. So let's count those out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to put an extra one in this stitch. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, Let's do 17, and I'm going to put 18 in the same stitch too. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. I've got one half double crochet left at the end of my row, and this is where I'm going to do my next corner. So in this stitch, making sure I get both the front loop and the back loop, I'm going to put 3 single crochet in this corner. 1, 2, 3. And then we're just going to rotate our work a little bit because next we're going to be working along the side. So we have our top row of edging right here, nice, neat little single crochets. And we want to put 25 until we get to the corner on this side. We want 25 singles in between our corners on all 4 sides of our block. And here we don't have neat even stitches to work in. We've got this raw edge where we've done our chain and turn. So I want to determine where my halfway point is. So I'm going to just fold this over and just kind of see where the middle is right here on my block. We did this last week as well. And I'm going to put a stitch marker in there just for the sake of showing you guys where I'm going. And put this little stitch marker right there. And I know that if I want 25 in between my corners, I'm going to work about 12 or 13 here, and then the remainder on this side. So I want to evenly space them. And sometimes it just takes a little while to figure out your spacing on it. It's okay to take out some of your work and redo it. So I'm going to go right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I'm going to go over here to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to do up to 13 right there. Now, what's really nice about doing your first round of your edging the same color as your block is it doesn't matter where you put these. They're not going to show. It's going to blend in with the color just fine. Let's take our stitch marker out. And we're going to do 12 more until I get to the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Put 10 right there. 10, 11, 12. So I should have my 25 in between my corners. And this is going to give a nice edging to this side. Oh, Paul, thank you so much for stopping in. I'm sorry you have to run. You boys play nice. It was nice having you in here. I appreciate it so much. I hope to see you again soon. And thank you for playing my playlist. I really do appreciate that. Have a safe weekend if we don't see you again. If you're available on Saturday, Papa Jim and I, we're going to get together and do our spinning wheel and stuff our piñata. So stop in for that. That's going to be at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Okay, friends, we're at this corner here now. We're going to do 3 single crochet in this corner. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to rotate our work clockwise, counterclockwise. whatever if you're right-handed or left-handed, but don't turn your work. Do not turn your work over. We're just going to rotate as we go around. So now we want 25 in between here and here. Again, we started with 25, so we've got 23 available spaces across. So we're going to have to do the same thing that we did for up here or down here now that it's at the bottom when we worked across the row here. So again, I'm going to fold my work in half, determine where my center is, and I will be adding my stitch marker. Now you don't have to use a stitch marker, but you can if you want to. Just a nice little way to know where you're at. And that way you don't have to count 25. You can break it in half. Sometimes it just makes it easier. So let's go. And this is our beginning chain. This is going to be the chain that we started with. So whether you worked in the back bars or whether you worked in the front loop, you're still going to have 2 pieces left. You're going to have 2 strands left from that beginning chain. Make sure you go through both of them so that your work doesn't pull. If you just go through one, you're going to get a long pull when you add these together and this blanket stretches, and you don't want that. You want to have the stability of going through both. So we're going to go through both parts of that chain that's left over there and work our way across. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's put a double one in here for 10, because remember we have to add 2 more. 11, 12, 13. We know we have to add 12 more total, so we're at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I'm going to put 19 in there too. Moving on, we've got 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So we have 25 single cross to make the first row of edging. And then this is our knot where we first started. And this is why I keep that long tail, because you're going to want to either sew that in, or if you are comfortable crocheting over your work, you can do that as well. I saw that that's what Nisi chose to do. And it again comes down to personal preference, whether you like to sew over your ends, or I'm sorry, whether you like to work stitches over your ends or whether you like to sew them in. I'm just going to show sewing in at the end, just so I don't confuse anyone who might not be familiar with crocheting over your tails here. But if you're used to that and that's what you want to do, you certainly can do so. Here's our corner. We're going to work 3 single crochets into the corner. 1, 2, get out of the way there, buddy, and 3. Rotating our work, so we've got our one last row to do here. One more time, I'm going to fold this in half and put in my stitch marker, because I'm going to have to do 25. Well, actually, yeah, I'm going to make sure I get my stitch count correct. I know I can just work across, but again, we have these unfinished rows, unfinished edging here. So we want to make sure we get exactly 25. I'm going to unfold that instead of trying to stab it through, because these are not the best stitch markers. Sometimes they tug at the yarn. Okay, I'm going to try to do either 12 or 13 to this point. At Creek Homestead, I just posted a short video of them if anybody wants to see after this live. It's crazy, never seen that many birds before. Oh, what did I miss about birds? Somebody mentioned a lot of birds. I'll go over and check it out. Oh, Hat Creek Homestead, I'll check that out too. Are they starlings? Did you get a bunch of starlings? We get that here sometimes. Let's do 25 across. We're going to start with 13 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And take out my stitch marker and do 12 more to the corner. Oh, snowbirds. Let's do 12 more. So we've got 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, oops, 20, we're stuck at 21, but I got a little snag here. 22, 23, 24, and 25. And here's our corner with our first 3 single crochets. We're going to go into the first single crochet, make sure we pick up both the front and the back loops. Insert our hook, pull the yarn through. Do not wrap the yarn. We're going to pull the hook through the other loop. That's a slip stitch, and that's how we will be closing things when we're ready to finish off. Do 2 chains. You can do 1 or you can do 2. I find the 2 to be a much more secure method. Give yourself a nice long tail. Pull the yarn through your hook so that now it's not going to come undone. Use your fingernails to just kind of pinch that and give it a nice firm tug, and it brings that knot all the way close to your work. It's not coming out. There we go. Nisi says, can I post Coupon Gale's live link so we can raid her once you're done? Absolutely. I think that would be fun. That would be fun if we can raid her. We've only got a little bit more to go. We're just going to add our white edging, just like we did last week. Let me grab my white yarn. What did I do with it? I found it. Let me get my white set up here. So with your color A, you're going to go ahead and put in a slip stitch. Now, sometimes I put it on and then go through my work, but I like, you can add it anywhere. You really can. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to start. Let me switch our banner over for our next instruction so I don't. Here we go, round 2. Here is a corner. It's not necessarily the corner where we left off. It's over here. You can pick any corner and find your 3 single crochets that you put in for a corner. Locate the center one and go ahead and get that yarn with a slip stitch onto your work. I'm just going to do just a little chain to secure it, and we're going to do 3 single crochet in the corner here. So 1, 2, 3. There we go. We've got 3. This makes our corner on the second row of our edging, second round of our edging. Now, we should have 25 in between our corners. So you just want to work 25 even crochets. Whoops. Ooh, I hit my new little setup with my hand. Just 25 across. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I forgot, did we get 25 or 27? 17, 18. I think we're going to have 27, 19. I didn't read it. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. We had 25 in between our corners, but we have 1 extra because of the corners. So there's 27. And here's our corner. This is the one where our knot is, so things are going to be a little bit tight. But we're going to work 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, when you get to where that tail is, make sure you keep it pulled to the back. Our V's showing this way. This is the front of our block. So you want to make sure the tail's to the back so you can sew it in easily. 27 across the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I did it again, guys. I did that last week. I did it last week too. Remember? I do it every time. Got to give myself a little bit of a leeway here. Come over here to start my first one. 1, 2. Those corners trip me up sometimes. 3, 4, 5. Before I get too far, let me see how my corner's looking. That looks better. 6. I have a grumbly tummy. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. That was better. Let me go back over to our comments because I'm still looking at banners. You did that last week too, Niecy. It's easy to do. Hello, Mountain Grandma. Tammy's here. She wants to know what your colors are, Niecy. Tammy's talking to you. Welcome in, Tammy. Here's our corner. We're going to do 3 single crochet in our corner and then rotate our work. 2, 3. And we're at 27 along this third side. See if I can get it right this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, hot flash, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27, arriving at our final corner. Putting 3 into this corner here, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet. Rotating our work and working this last final leg. Nisi, were you able to drop the live for Gail so we can do a love raid on her in just a couple of minutes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. Don't slip stitch into this little chain that we did when we joined. Go to your first single crochet, slip stitch into it, pull through, do those 2 chains, and finish off. So we're going to give ourselves a nice long tail, pull the yarn through, taking your fingernails and really pinch and cinch down on that knot that we've got here on this first chain, pull it down, and it's going to make a nice little secure knot that's not going to come undone. And there we have our second square. Now, before we get together next week, you're going to want to turn this over. If you have not crocheted over your ends, you're going to want to sew in your ends and make sure that this is all nice and neat and tidy so that when we join them, you're going to have an opportunity to do that without any hassle. Now, because I know that this is going to be a topic that's brought up, yes, this square is going to be bigger than this square. But as I said, we're going to have 27 here, 27 here. As we sew these together, this will stretch out a little bit in all 4 directions. It's not going to pucker or look funny when we get our work together. If it makes you uncomfortable, you can redo your single crochet. The single crochets tend to be a little tighter, but as this stretches out, you can block it if you want to. But once we add them all together and you get a nice little stretch to it, you're going to be okay. It really just depends on what you want to do. I am a tight crocheter, my single crochets especially, but you can block it if you want, or just know that once we add these together, they're going to stretch just fine and they'll come together. So that is block number 2, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be putting together a tutorial for our next stitch, which is the double crochet. That will go out later this week, so you can refer to that if you need to. It will be available in left hand and right hand. This live will be available as well if you need to go back, look at the instructions, get some follow-up on the tutorial, and I will once again work on this stinking little camera and make sure that I can get it turned around appropriately. So I don't think I have anything more to add to this today. I don't have anybody has any questions or comments. Mountain Grandma has beautiful colors chosen. So does Nisi. And I'm really happy that they're here to work on their heritage. I always want to say heritage, and that's not what it is. It's the heirloom crochet along. It's our heirloom Afghan crochet along. I don't know why I have the hardest time saying that. Anyways, guys, let's all head over to Gail's. The link is in the chat. So you can go on over and let's do a love raid. Until I see you all again, take care of yourself, take care of each other. I will see you in some of my other lives, and I've got some other videos coming out this week. Thank you so much for spending your day with me. I will talk to you all soon. Let's go over and say hi to Gail. Bye-bye, guys.